Hey everyone, it's Debra Eckerling, founder of the Deb Method and author of Your Goal Guide, a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals. I'm so excited today because today I have my friend Liz Kelly, who's joining me to talk about a very important and common question, which is how to pitch yourself. And Liz is the author of 8-Second PR and founder of Goody PR, and she does lots of cool stuff. And I'm going to let you introduce yourself a little bit more.
Well,
So Liz, welcome.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Deborah. It's great to see you in the middle of the pandemic. And hello to everybody. Thank you for joining us. And yes, I am the author of this book, 8-Second PR. The average attention span of an adult is 8 seconds. So that's where this came from. You got to get to the point right away. And then I'm also the founder of Goody PR, and we're a small boutique PR company. We also do marketing and social media campaigns, and we love to magnify good. And we're really excited to be here to talk about pitching and how do you get that interview. So I'll hand it back to Deborah.
Okay. Well, and before we get started on the meat, because what we do is we have goal chat on Sunday night, and then Monday I bring in an expert like you so we can do a deep dive into the topic. And this is a question that came up on last week's goal chat, which is, should I be pitching myself? How can I pitch myself? There is so much going on in the world, and for lack of a better word, there's so much going on in the world. So how do you decide when, and it's whether you're pitching to the media or to a client, how do you figure out what's appropriate? So let's do that before we jump in to the questions from Gold Chat.
Sure. Well, I think that's a great question. That's how I got into PR, was pitching myself, because I hired two PR companies to promote my dating book. My first book was called Smart Man Hunting, and it was kind of a fast track guide to find Mr. Right. And I had a lot of fun with it, but I learned so much by working with the PR people that then after their PR contracts ended, then I went on and pitched myself because I found that I had this knack for storytelling, and that's really what we're talking about here when we talk about pitching and getting interviews. It can't be, will you do an interview about my cool company or my cool product or my cool book? It doesn't work like that. You have to have a story behind your story. And so as long as you have that, then it works. So for example, for Smart Man Hunting, we had 26 man codes for the different personality types from A to Z. And one of them, they were like all sports fanatic, bachelor available, confident metro male, and then dysfunctional guy with issues, which is everybody. But so for each one of those man codes, I could do a separate pitch. For example, Keeper of the Fire was the K, and that's the romantic who, brings you flowers and loves to, let you know you're wonderful. So we could pitch about that around Valentine's Day and then pitch me as the spokesperson. So it's not a pitch about, well, I'm great. It's got to be a pitch about how are you going to help people and why are you the expert to talk about it?
Right. Well, and that kind of ties back into what I talk about all the time, which is you need your mission and your motto. And when you know what you stand for, what you're about, how the who you are goes into what you do, then everything else falls from that. Right?
Exactly. And I do talk about mission and, your tagline and your motto. All that is also in 8-Second PR, the book, because you do want to have that foundation. And, for example, Goody PR is let us magnify your good. And I get a lot of people who call me and just say, I have a book coming out, or I'm launching a business and there's a social cause with it. And I try to get every client we have to have a social cause. Now, most of them are what I call social enterprise, which is for profit and for good. So all of our clients are successful business people. We don't work with a lot of charities, but all our clients have a charity, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. Okay, so going back to my question before the questions, there's no bad time to pitch yourself as long as it's appropriate. Is that?
That's right.
Is that how we tie that up into an answer?
I think that's a good answer. I mean, we're going to talk a lot more about the detail, but there is a lot of timing involved, and but it's totally okay to pitch yourself. Now, if you are if you're really busy and you have the budget, then you should hire somebody to do it for you, because they're going to have the contacts and they're going to know how to do it better. Just because, it's like anything, you just learn how to do it better. Now, part of why I wrote 8-Second PR, trying to get it in here, it is a how-to guide to do it yourself. Mm-hmm. Because there were people that would call me and say, I can't afford you. So I'd say, okay, $14.95, you can buy my book and get my crash course.
Okay. Well, for today, and I'll have the book links and the recap, and I'll put them toward the end of the conversation so people can grab your book if that's something that's going to help them out. I also want to do a shout out to Nita, one of our Mango authors who's watching. Hi, Nita. Always nice to see you. And if you are watching, and please give us a shout, let us know where you're from. We are sending you good vibes from sunny Southern California today, and we're across town, but the beauty of technology, because we haven't seen each other for obvious reasons a long time, but I think we've connected more over the last couple months through technology. So it's awesome. So thrilled to have you here. We're just going to assume anybody who's watching wants to know the fun, cool, scrappy stuff, right?
Absolutely. I mean, okay. It's really, there are some secrets, and I'll go through them.
Okay. Well, the first question, it comes up as Q3, but the first of the topic that we got into last night was which elements go into pitching yourself, your expertise, and or your business. And I think that's kind of what I'm going to let you go into it, but it was what I was talking about before. You need to say who you are, how you help others, and you want to be timely, especially if you're pitching media. I repeat myself. So now that we have my scrappy answer, why don't I'm going to hand it back to you to do a little bit more of a deep dive for the people who are watching, because we all need, sure. And especially since I think a lot of our audiences are authors and experts, and yes, it would be lovely to hire people, but even when you hire people, you need to be, on the lookout for opportunities for yourself, right?
Well, that's a good point too, because all of the people that we work with as clients, we say we collaborate with them because we are not the expert in their area. For example, if we get hired by a doctor, we are not a doctor, right? So the doctor has to help us brainstorm ideas, and we can come up with suggestions, but we're not a doctor. So we're very upfront with that. But I think in terms of elements of the pitch, I'm not really pushing this book that much, although I am going to refer to it, because this book, I'm not really making money off of this book. This is just a gift back to the world. Seriously, I spent more money on producing this book than I've made back on it. But that's not the point. The point is to help people, and also it helps give me more credibility because I wrote a book. So if you haven't written a book, I highly encourage you to write a book and hire Debra to help you. But anyway, so chapter 4 in this book is all about the pitching. And so I was looking at it. There are 8 steps in there. I'm not going to go through the 8 steps because I don't have them memorized. But there are, let's say, 4 key things that I want to go over. So number 1 is the subject line of your email. Number 2 is like the first sentence. Number 3 is the talking points, and number 4 is your bio about who you are. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go through each one of those, and you'll help me remember them. Anyway, so
You didn't tell me.
so
I was going to be quizzed.
the subject line is everything, because you got to look at open rates and how many people are opening your email. What's the percent? And you can do that using a software called Constant Contact. You can put your email pitch in there and then send it out, and then it will tell you. And there's other software out there too, but that's one I use. And it'll tell you how many people, what percent, and then it will tell you exactly who's opening it and what time they open it. So the subject line is going to have a huge impact on how many people open your email. So usually in the subject line, I write, pitch, or I write media alert. Now the difference is pitch is usually, here's a timely story, but media alert is I launched something. I launched a new business. I launched a book, because that makes it more newsworthy with a media alert. And then you put dash, and then you put your subject line. And I recommend 8 words, 8-second PR, 8 words. But you can do shorter or longer. But the first couple words are the key things. So, for example, I have a psychologist who's a client right now in San Francisco. So if I am pitching San Francisco, the media are looking for the local experts that they can quote in their stories or that they can interview. So I know that. So I say pitch dash Bay Area psychologists. That will increase the open rate because they know they're getting a local expert. And then the next part is, explains, it's a verb, uncovers, and then it's, how to deal with anxiety during the pandemic, right? Because that's what's going on right now. And they're a psychologist and they can talk about that. Now you can get more specific and you can say something like Bay Area psychologists discuss how dating has improved in the Bay Area during pandemic. Now these topics I've really pitched and we've really gotten interviews. So those are good examples of the subject line. The other thing is you can put stuff in the subject line like media alert, and then you write something having to do with the timing, right? So you can write today or tomorrow or tonight, or Thursday, whatever it is, to make it urgent so they open it up. So that's, pitch or media alert, and then dash today, and then dash whatever you're pitching. So that's the subject line. Okay. Any questions about the subject line? I'll go to the next one.
No, I think it's great. I love how very, very specific this formula is. And I hate to call it a formula, but it's formula.
No, it is. It is. And there's more examples in the book.
Okay,
and
let's
go. So then the second part is really the first couple of sentences or the first sentence. And that's your hook. That's what are you pitching? So what I mean is, in that example that I just gave, I'm not pitching just that you want to interview this Bay Area psychologist because she's got a business and she's got books and she's a cool person. That's not what I'm pitching. I'm pitching that she can talk about how is dating improved during the pandemic and online dating specifically. And then I will give them in that first paragraph, which would be, 1 to 3 sentences, but 2 sentences is good. And then I would say, in light of, surprisingly, during the pandemic, Bay Area psychologist, blah, 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 is finding that the dating is improving and can discuss 5 ways it's improving. So that's another thing that is a huge secret is the media, and you probably know this, but the media loves lists. So give them
Right.
a list, not like this person's going to talk 5 hours about dating. They've got 5 things, dot, 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 that are in bullets. And so then that's your next part is your potential talking points. So then you want to say, the doctor can discuss, and then you have the bullet points with unique things that they can discuss, not just something you read online, but unique things that they can discuss, such as what are her clients telling her in the Bay Area, because she is the Bay Area expert. You see what I mean?
I do. I want to back up to one thing about the hook that you
Okay.
alluded to but didn't actually say. But data is the other thing, like X percentage of this or whatever. If you can give numbers to back up and then explore it in your talking points, that's another boost, right?
That's a really good point. And yes, absolutely. The media loves it when you do their homework for them, right? So you're doing the homework if you can provide them data and then you provide the reference, meaning you provide that link, or you say, according to, X survey, or according to CNBC, and then you include whatever the reference is. The media loves that. So yes, that's a really good point. Thank you for bringing that up.
Of course.
And let's talk about some other I'll talk about some timely hooks too. I mean, we have, today is June 8th, and next week, June 14th, is Flag Day. And a lot of people don't know June 14th is Flag Day.
I actually did.
So, well, that's good. That's great. But I'm going to give an example. So I have a client who their name is Warriors Heart, Warriors with an S, and they have the first and only private addiction center in the country for warriors only, which is frontline protectors like military, veterans, first responders, and emergency medical personnel, right?
Right.
Now, as part of this healing that they do, which is incredible, is they make flags in their shop, right? They have a wood and metal shop, and the veterans make the flags out of the wood and the metal. And then they sell the flags as a way to raise money for a foundation that helps pay for other people's treatment. So if insurance won't cover it, the Warriors Heart Foundation, they can apply, and then they can, hopefully get what they call a hardship scholarship because their insurance doesn't cover. Now, these flags are gorgeous. They are pieces of art, and they sell for $300. And I have one because I love them. Anyway, so we had a retired U.S. Air Force Colonel, Chris Strickland, and he decides, I want to do a fundraiser tied to these flags. But he doesn't really know how to make this a media pitch, right?
Okay.
So I say to him, well, did you know next week is Flag Day? And he says, no. Okay, so not everybody knows June 14th is Flag Day, but great for you, Deborah.
Well, you know me. I'm a unique holiday junkie, and Flag Day isn't even a unique holiday. It's just a regular one.
Yeah.
But there's always something in the calendar that you can tie to something, and if you can't, just make something up.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Whatever the current event is, and there are calendars out there, and I have a master calendar of all the key days. So you want to look for those days. So then what I did was I developed a campaign that I said, we're going to go from June 14th, Flag Day, to July 4th, because that's a big day where the flag is celebrated and America's freedom is celebrated and all that kind of stuff. So, and he had an event on June 30th. So that's another thing where he was going to auction off one of the flags, and then he was doing an online raffle. So we had those 2 events also. So if you can tie things to events as part of the hook, that also makes it very timely. So that's that's a really good example. So what happened in this case was the colonel that I'm pitching this for, who's doing a fundraiser with these flags. He's got 2 flags. He was a traveling consultant, inspirational speaker, right? So I said, give me your schedule. So he gives me his schedule. And within 3 weeks, I got him 3 TV interviews in 3 different cities, depending on where he was. And each city was pitched differently with a local connection. Because remember, the local news likes the local connection. So it worked out great. The last one, his home base is Birmingham, Alabama. And the last one was filmed on July 3rd. And then they played it the night of July 3rd. And then they replayed it the next day on July 4th. So that's the other thing. If you're really lucky, you get a TV interview that gets played 4 times. And anyway, it just worked out fantastic with that timing. So that's your subject line and your hook. And then we talked about the talking points. And then the 4th part that I want to bring up is your bio. So do you have any questions about anything? I'll take a pause.
I think this is so, I've just been putting these in the chat to just, play along. And every time I go to type in the next one before it goes up, but it's all logic. This all makes sense. But I have to tell you something funny that is completely irrelevant, but kind of is. Years ago, when I did events for Barnes & Noble, which many people know is kind of what led me on the goal path, because that's where I started my first goal group. But I was doing singles events for the different Barnes & Nobles in the area. And I was on, it was PBS, I think it was PBS, interviewed me. It was Thanksgiving weekend. Now, this is the 90s when bookstores were hot and there were events everywhere. I got calls from people everywhere who I hadn't seen in years who were like, hey, Deb, I saw you on TV. It was ridiculous because it was that kind of a station and that kind of a story. It was just mind-blowing. And it went, like literally, ex-boyfriends came out of the woodwork because I was talking about doing singles events. It was hilarious.
Oh, that's great. That's a great story. I love that. Yeah, there's so many topics out there and things that you can talk about. The other key thing that we haven't talked about with the hook is the importance of, you want to share information. You want to be educating people on things that can help them or inspire them. So the Flag Day, campaign was really inspirational, and they raised over $10,000 on these 2 flags that normally would sell for $300. So there was a huge win for everybody. Everybody likes helping veterans, and it's a really important cause. So that's what I call my Goosebump client.
Yeah,
but
I can see why.
but you can have other things that are more informational. So it could be just like the dating person. How has dating improved during the pandemic? And if you're single, then you'll want to watch that story. I also had a tax expert as a client, and that's totally different. And there's been so much tax change in the past 4 years that he just got hundreds of interviews because, he could explain the new tax law, and he could explain, if there was a new proposal, what it meant, and how businesses could legally take advantage of the tax benefits.
Okay, so we have the elements. You've got your subject line, got to get them interested. The hook, which is like, here's a fact, here's information, this is what I discovered, these are the talking points. And now, drumroll, number 4, your bio.
Drumroll. Okay, so thank you very much. So the bio is really, really important. And most people have a hard time with this because remember, 8-second PR is about getting to the point in 8 seconds. So the first sentence in your bio is getting to the point in 8 seconds. A lot of people won't read beyond that first sentence. And that first sentence in the bio should include the title that you want them to say, or you want them to use if they're quoting you in a story, like in the Wall Street Journal or, Business Insider. You want to include right in the first sentence what you want to be called. So, for the Bay Area psychologist, I'll just keep using her as an example because it's a good one. We've debated, do we call her a clinical psychologist or a psychotherapist, because she's both. And then she's also an author. And did we want to emphasize that? And then she started a new company. So because she really wanted to promote the new company, it's called CBT Online, then we promoted that as her as CBT Online founder, right in the first couple of words. So that first sentence is get to the point with exactly how you want them to mention you and give you credit. And then the rest of the bio can talk about your story. If you have a column, for example, the tax guy had a column in Entrepreneur, that gives him more credibility. If you're a podcast host, you can put that in there. That gives you credibility. Because the whole thing is you want to inspire the media to have confidence that they have an interview with you, because it's going to be a great interview because you're an expert. And the interview is a conversation, and is not about, memorizing a script. So if you are not an expert, then you're going to have a harder time going off the cuff. Like this whole interview is just off the cuff because this is what I live and breathe every day. And so then at the end of the bio, you want to list any media credits that you have. So you can say, as seen on CNN, or as seen on the Today Show, or as seen in, the Dr. Drew podcast. All of these are good examples to give the media confidence that if they interview you or they, credit you in a story and quote you, that you're a reliable reference. So that's the key thing. And then the very last thing, because I don't know if we're running out of time, but the very last.
Like I told you before, we're anywhere from a half hour to an hour, and we can talk as long as you want to. So please keep going.
Okay. So this is really important. So then at the end of the bio, the final thing I'll say is provide your website. Now, a lot of people have 3, 4, 5 websites. If you add your social media. Make sure you're really clear. If you only had one website that you could give to the media, which one would that be? And that's the one you want to emphasize at the bottom of your bio, because the media, they get, thousands of emails a day, thousands of pitches a day, and they are multitasking like you have no idea. And so you've got to make it really easy for them. So make it really easy for them to find all of the information we just talked about. The subject line, the hook in the first sentence, the talking points, do your homework for them, give them the references, and then the bio of who you are and why you are an expert in your area.
Wow. That was awesome.
There you go. There's 15 years of PR in
20 minutes.
30 minutes.
Okay. And I think you answered this. Well, you did, but I want to go a little bit into this. So the next question that came up was, how do you make your pitch stand out? Is there anything you could do beyond everything else, or is the everything else what makes your pitch stand out?
Well, that's a really good question. I think the most important thing is you've got to brainstorm the story. What's the story behind the story? Like the Flag Day thing, Flag Day was not on that guy's radar, and that made it more relevant and more timely. Now, in another example, same client, I had somebody who biked across the whole country, 3,000 miles, to raise money for the client. they raise money for the client. And, you know, most of the best practices for pitches say send your pitch out on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, because Monday they're overwhelmed. Friday they're taking off for the weekend, right? Or they're finishing their story and they don't want to hear new stories, right? So I broke all the rules for this guy riding the bike, and I sent out a pitch on Sunday afternoon at 3:00. And what I wrote, it was like, what we'll say, it was like April 29th, and he was leaving on his bike ride on Tuesday, May 1st. So that was the subject line: leaving on Tuesday, May 1st, leaving San Diego on Tuesday, May 1st. And we got 3 TV interviews within an hour.
Wow.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's breaking the rules is what's going to make you stand out.
Yeah. And but the headline made them open it because it was relevant, it was timely, and it had the local geography. Now, we haven't talked about national TV, and you know, chances are much better that you're going to get on local TV, and but national TV can happen also. It just usually requires a lot more follow-up, a lot more relationship building, and you have to do a lot of research on who's the reporter, what's their topic. You know, if you want to be on the Today Show, or you want to be on CNN, or even Fox News, we watch every station. You need to know who is that reporter and what is their subject, and why would they care? So for example, the Today Show was doing a series on veterans, and so we were fortunate, we were able to get connected to the producer that was working on that series, and then we were able to get Warrior's Heart on the Today Show. Now, that pitch probably evolved 10 different times, and it took 7 months to get on the Today Show. So I think that's really important for people to understand that, like, if somebody says no to you the first time, that doesn't mean no forever. Sometimes they'll say, we're not interested in this at all. But if you don't get, we're not interested in this at all, then you want to keep trying, and you want to keep sending different ideas until all of a sudden the timing clicks and the topic clicks and all the stars line up. And so that's really what happened with the Today Show.
See, I'm like twisting my question, because you just kind of answered the other thing, which was what tips do you have, is not so much for crafting the perfect pitch, but it's for getting the pitch in the right hands. You need to find the right people and be persistent, unless it's a definite no, in which case what you find other people to continually follow up with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, for example, I have a different client, and all they want to do is be in, you know, entrepreneur. They said that's what our focus is. Another one said, we just want to be in the Huffington Post. So I have a database that I pay a lot of money for. It's called Cision. I will share my secret. It's also in the back of the book as a reference. There's references in the back of the book. 8 Second PR. But anyway, so I can go in Cision, and I can find the contact info, the email and the phone numbers for reporters from Entrepreneur and Huffington Post. But what I do is I take it to the next level, because Entrepreneur has lots of contributors, same thing with the Huffington Post. So you have to take it the next level down, and you could even do a Google search on Entrepreneur contributor and then the topic, like taxes, right? And then you find somebody that's writing about taxes, and then you pitch them specifically. So it does matter what's the publication and who is the reporter. Now, sometimes I get a response like, I can't do this right now. Can you get back to me in 3 months? And so one of my mottos is be patient, persistent, and never desperate. So that's a good thing to write down. Be patient, persistent, and never desperate, because Working with the media is just like dating. The minute you come on too hard, they go running away. So
Okay, I'm typing this in. Be
I
patient.
really have a T-shirt that says that: be patient, persistent, and never desperate.
Yeah, I'm typing it in the chat because this is definitely worth calling out.
That's gonna be my T-shirt.
It should be, because it's really, oh goodness, why is it typo? Why is it giving me a red line? Oh, silly spell check. There we go.
Spellcheck is good. We like Spellcheck.
Oh, we love spell check. Oh, that's a really good point for your pitches.
Yeah.
Whatever you send out, you want it to be as perfect as humanly possible, because you don't want to come off as not being careful, right?
Exactly. Please, please, please spell check everything and then read it and then send it to yourself too. And then read it on your phone and see if there's any missing words, and then go back and send it out. I do that with every pitch. I send it to myself as a test. And then I also do spell check, and I still make mistakes. I admit it, but I really, really try not to.
Well, the other trick is to read it out loud, because you will catch more things when you read something out loud than when you read in your head.
Absolutely. I do that too. I think that's a really good tip, to read it out loud. And it's really important because, I was saying before, these reporters get 5,000 emails a day. If they start reading your email and they can't understand it and there's typos in it, they're just going to hit delete.
Well, it's sort of like the same care that you put into anything. One good example of that is, you spend a lot of time writing a book. You should still spend a lot of time writing a book proposal, writing the query letters. Just because it's not as long as your passion project, whatever that may be, does not mean it does not deserve the same care. And in a lot of ways, it deserves more, because that's what's going to grab people's attention, and they're going to be less forgiving if it's something short, if they're errors. And I'm super judgy when I get things with typos, because I do some freelancing, not as much anymore. This conversation is super interesting for me, because I spent years as a freelancer, but being on the other end as the goal setting expert is a completely different ball of wax for being I know what you're going through, I've been on that side, but talk to me person,
Yeah, no, and I've been a reporter too, so it's
so
definitely it's definitely something that I know, and I've gotten pitches, and I think that, yeah, I mean, and I teach digital marketing at UCLA Extension, and this is the #1 pet peeve I have with the students, and a lot of the professors feel the same way. I'm considered an instructor, just to clarify, but we've had instructor training, and everybody complains and says, how do we get people not to do typos? And the school has told us, you need to mark them down. So I've actually given out 65s, and I hate that. I gave one person a 50 because of typos.
Oh, that must be exciting so much.
I'm usually nice, and I say you can rewrite it, but it is really, really hard. And that's just a class. That's not the end of the world. Or I should say, it's not as big of a deal to do a typo when you're doing a marketing class online. But if you are sending a reporter to CNN and they cannot understand what you said because there's so many typos, that's a big problem. Because if you get an interview on a CNN or the Today Show, you're talking about thousands of dollars of media value. For CNN, for 3 minutes, it's probably $50,000 easily worth in the PR value. The Today Show interview that I booked, it ended up being 7.5 minutes. So guess how much it was worth?
I couldn't even dream, but priceless. I'm going to go with priceless.
Okay, priceless is good. we'll say big six figures.
Wow.
Big six figures.
Okay, so we've got a couple questions in the chat. And this one I just have to share from Tommy Burke, who said he was trying to figure out which bachelor letter he is.
Well, I don't know if I have them posted. You could try greatlifegreatlove.com. That was my last site. I actually have thought about making it into a small book and just call it the man codes. You know, take it out of the bigger book because the rights have reverted back to me.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'll do that. But what I say, that was Tommy, right?
Yeah, Tommy.
They're good guys, bad guys, and mostly maybe guys. And it's a compatibility guide. So, for example, let's take the all sports fanatic.
I know him. Yes.
My sister, for example, is a huge basketball fan, and so is her husband, and they had University of Maryland basketball tickets. So they're both all sports fanatics, and they're both on the high end of all sports fanatics. So they're compatible. So that's just an example. Now, if you really don't like sports, you would be miserable with somebody who's an all sports fanatic. And then, what's the name of that movie with Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore about the
Fever Pitch? Yes.
Yeah, Fever Pitch. I gave movie examples in the book too.
I love it.
So and that's another way to make your story relevant and timely is give pop culture examples.
Okay, so we're gonna jump into and I actually know Tommy, and Tommy, you're a good guy in the three of the realms, so no worries about you. Okay, so we have Christina, who's with Authors Large and Small, and welcome back because Christina comes to our Gold Chat Live a lot, so very happy to see you. So we've got two questions from her. She wants to know, how do you know when people are turning down the idea or the person you're pitching for a particular reason, or when the problem is how you wrote the pitch? Do you know?
You don't know. That's the short answer. You don't know. If you want to get feedback, I suggest that you send it to a friend or you send it to a PR person. Actually, that is a business idea that I should do, where I would review pitches for people. I can spend 3 to 5 hours on a pitch. That's something that a lot of people don't realize. So write that down. 3 to 5 hours you can spend on one pitch because you want to do your homework and you want to do it right. It's not just, write something really quick. Now, for a press release, which, a lot of times it's like a pitch, I can spend 8 to 10 hours on a pitch. But anyway, I mean, on the press release, 8 to 10 hours. So you're not going to know. Your bottom line, you're not going to know unless you're lucky enough to have a reporter friend or a PR friend to tell you honest feedback. That's the other thing. We're not really good at giving each other constructive, honest feedback. And so I have friends where I will say to them, can you tell me what you think about this? I don't do it often, but if it's really important, I will call a PR colleague and run it by them.
Okay, that's it. It's what we were saying before. You put all this effort into your business, into your life. When I wrote the bio, this in my book, I probably spent a day and a half on it.
There you go.
I probably spent a little bit longer, or the bio that was on my website that I reworked. So I've spent a lot of time on my bio because you want it a certain way. And one of the things that I tell my clients all the time is the time that you give to yourself in developing your expertise, getting yourself out there, it's a gift to you. So take the time and do it right because there's really no substitute.
Exactly. I mean, if you're pitching about yourself, it's your personal brand. And so you want to really give it a lot of TLC,
Okay, so Christina also wants to know, and if anybody else is watching and has a question live, please post it in the comments, and thank you for being here. So we've got Christina. Can you pitch the same outlet with a fresh angle on the same person or book?
So, Christina, that's a great question, and the answer is absolutely. Um, the the advice tip, though, that I would give is you want to space it out. So, in other words, you don't want to pitch the same media outlet every couple days with the same person. Like, at least have 1 week between, and even like 2 to 3 weeks sometimes in between is better, depending on whatever the outlet is.
Wow, this is really good stuff. Okay, I'm gonna cite. If you have a few more minutes, I've got a couple other questions that I just they're
Sure.
into my mind. What do you think of sites like Help a Reporter, where there are journalists out there sending what they're looking for and then pitching back? Because I personally, I spend a lot of time on them and maybe 10% success rate. But now I'm going to do different things, so maybe I'll up that. Are you better off responding, or are you better off just approaching, or do you need to mix? You're going to tell me you need to mix, and I answered my own question, aren't you?
Yes. But I do want to talk about the Harrow. She's talking about Harrow. It's called Help a Reporter Out. I am a huge advocate. I do use it. I do think it's very frustrating because the success rate, you're right, 10% is about right. So what that means is you got to reply to 10 things to get in one story, and you spend a lot of time writing the answers. So what I've tried to coach my clients to do is write less, but be more specific and try to come up with something unique. Don't pitch the reporter back. Just answer their question, and I, okay, I'm going to tell a joke. Hopefully you guys think this is funny. So I studied for the Series 7 exam to get, a license to sell stock. This is a long time ago. And we had this pre-course, and during the pre-course, it was 1 week, and it was so intense. It was like how to take this test and pass. So you had all these acronyms. So they put up on the board RTFQ, and we're like, "What is RTFQ?" Because our brains are swamped with all this information. We're like, "Okay, RTFQ." It's read the effing question. Okay, read the question of the reporter and answer it. Because remember, that reporter has an 8-second attention span, so they do not want to read your big lead up to the answer. Just read the question. I'll say it in a nicer way. Read the question and answer the question, and then you will have better success. And put your bio, put that short paragraph bio at the bottom of every reply. Now, out of Harrow, I have gotten clients in the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, Time Magazine, CNBC. So I'm a huge advocate of it. But yes, it is a painful process. So the answer is you have to keep doing both. You have to approach the individual reporters. You have to do the big pitches to a lot of people. Some people don't agree with that, but I've had some luck with that. It's better if you know them. It's better if you do one-on-one, pitches. But sometimes an email blast will work. And then, when you're working with the individual, you're going to have the best luck, but you got to go back to my motto: be patient and persistent and never desperate.
Right. Because here, I'll find that again. Be patient, be persistent, and never desperate.
Yeah.
There are also a lot of people out there looking for content. It is not just reporters for big publications. There are bloggers. There are podcasters. There are video podcasters.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's a really good point. I mean, I have a client right now who is a real estate educator / investor, and she just wants to be on real estate podcasts. So that's a very niche area. And so I've been sending very niche specific pitches, just one-on-one with people I know. And we've probably had a 75% yes. So that's really high. but it's a very custom pitch and it's a very specific topic.
Okay, so you need to be persistent, and you need to also put a lot of time and effort. And the other thing I remember about the hero pitches, they don't want the same thing. They specifically say in a lot of them, please verify that you have not shared this tip elsewhere.
That is true. Many of the reporters, most reporters, they want something unique that you haven't shared with other people, and that's because they don't want their quote, in 10 different other publications.
Can I tell you, of course, I've got like funny story for everything. Years ago, when I was working for an ed tech site, somebody wrote a guest post for us, and I was just doing a little search just to get her backlink. And I found out that she put that same blog post that she sent on her website like a month before. And I just I wrote her a note, and I'm like, thank you so much for contributing this, but I'm sorry, I cannot use it. So when they say be unique, they mean it.
Yeah. That's a really good point. And yeah, if you're writing a letter to the editor, it's got to be unique. And you can also send things to people and write exclusive pitch. You can write that in the subject line, and then you can give them a deadline, and you can say, can you please get back to me by Wednesday? Give them 2 to 3 days. Can you please get back to me by Wednesday? Otherwise, we're going to pitch this to somebody else. And then you do it one at a time. And that can be hard, but if you're going after big publications, it can be worth it.
All of this information is wonderful. Now I'm going to share your links in the little bubbles. And I like to leave people with a little action item. So what is one thing anyone who's watching can do, like as soon as they're done, because they're going to be totally revved up from listening to you? What can they do today that is going to make a difference for them crafting their pitch?
Well, I would say the one thing I would do is brainstorm and write down 10 subject lines with 10 different pitches, and then just walk away. So brainstorm, come up with 10 things that would be like your media hook or your subject line, and then walk away and look at it again tomorrow. So for example, by walk away, I mean, take time to reflect. A lot of what I have done, which is another key secret of mine, is I go on walks. Now, you might be a runner, you might do yoga, you might like to bicycle. Whatever it is, you got to get out of your home office and you've got to reflect. And then the lightning bolts will come off. The whole like ABC man codes in my dating book, Smart Man Hunting, came from going on walks.
I mean, I'm like, well, the B in the Deb method stands for brainstorm your path. So you say brainstorm, I say I'm in. So it's with anything you do, whatever you are crafting your route, the route that you want to take, the brainstorming is going to help you, and you're going to discover things. And you're being very generous by saying only 10. I usually tell people to start with 20, but do 10, do another 10, do 10 more.
Yeah, that's good. 20 is great, but I just think, a minimum of 10.
Okay, so brainstorm 10 things, and they could be any of the 4 elements, and then ponder them and come up with even more ideas.
Well, I would come up with not any of 4 elements. I would just focus on the subject line.
Okay.
The subject line is your hook. The subject line is what is going to determine if they're going to open the email. And then the other part is, then tomorrow, when you could narrow it down to 3 and then start doing the other parts, the first sentence, the talking points, and then add the bio. Maybe that is a better way to explain it. But this subject line is everything.
That's good. Now, action item, come up with 10 subject lines, then narrow it down to 3, and then write out 3 pitches and go from there. That works. I think that's very, very doable homework. Well, thank you so much. Liz, for joining us today. I'm going to share your links one more time. You can learn more about Liz at Goody PR, and you can learn about her book at 8secondpr.com. And you can learn more about your goal guide at yourgoalguideroadmap.com. Learn more about my book. And if you want the recaps or to learn more about me, you can go to thedebmethod.com. And if you go to thedebmethod.com/blog, you will see the recaps and the replays for all of our Goal Chat lives. So one final tip. Let's wrap this up on a really... Yes, I want one more tip. I know I'm asking a lot of you.
One final tip is you should have your media folder ready, but do not attach anything to a pitch. So you can send a link, but never, ever send an attachment, because that freaks the reporters out and they will never open your attachment unless it's, for example, I've had people on CNN and they say, can you send us pictures of this person? If they say, can you send us pictures, then I send it through WeTransfer. I put the images in WeTransfer. Sometimes I'll attach it, but usually it's through WeTransfer. So that would be my final tip. And you know, your graphics are really important, and you got to have your book cover. So like, I'm just going to show this again because I love this book cover. And what's so funny is it kind of looks like me, and I hired the person online and they did not know what I look like.
I remember that story. I thought that was really, really cool, because I said that to you. I'm like, there's a great pic of you on the book. You said,
I know, and they didn't know. They didn't know me. They didn't know what I look like. But seriously, you cannot. They will want images, but don't attach them to a pitch email.
Okay, so your media file. See, you went down another rabbit hole. So your media file that you need to have ready should have your photo, your long bio, and a full press release.
You can put that in there, but usually what I have is media images more, which is your headshot, your logo, and then some action shots. So for example, when I do pitches about veterans, they always want photos of them when they were in service. So that's what I would call an action shot. And in the real estate example, I asked her for an action shot of her giving a seminar.
Okay, good to know. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking now because we can go another hour. Thank you so much, Liz, for joining us today. We've been talking to Liz H. Kelly of Goody PR and author of 8 Second PR. And I'm Debra Eckerling, founder of the Deb Method and author of See You Played Show and Tell. I will as well. Author of Your Goal Guide, a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals from Mango Publishing. Join me every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific for Goal Chat Live. And if you want to join me Sunday night as well for the Twitter version, just follow Goal Chat. We start at 7 p.m. every Sunday. Thanks again, Liz, for joining us. Thank you, everyone who's watching, whether you're watching live or the replay. You have no excuses. You've got all this great information to go out and craft some pitches. So let us know how it goes and just go for it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Debra, and thanks everybody for listening. And I always say, you can do this.
I always say that too. That's awesome.
That's so funny. I literally end all my videos with, you can do this.
Because you can.
You can. Yes.
This is your gift to yourself. You can and you will. And we're rooting for you.
We are. We're your cheerleaders. Yay. All right. Thanks, Debra. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Liz.